Morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. What's today's topic? Well, first of all, grab your coffee. Second of all, we're going to talk about Harbor Freight's all-purpose mixing bit or mixer. It goes on the end of a drill. It's used for mixing paint, concrete. It says, grout, thin set, all these different things. And there's a lot of criticism about it, but I have some hacks and some ways around some of that. So we're going to go ahead, we'll get right to the point, and we'll get after it, and I'll explain to you some of the things that you can do. So I'm going to change the picture. Let's talk about the pros, the cons, and then I'll show you some of the hacks. All right, here we go. Okay, so I wanted to start off by showing you something interesting. Now, this is $449 and it's without the discount. So with the discount added in, I'll show you the price here on the screen. But here's what's interesting. I took a look on Amazon too, because I kind of shopped around about this, because out at the club that I belong to, I had a friend of mine that bought one, and I have a different one. And we'll go out to the shop in a little bit, and I'll show you the one that I got, and we'll do somewhat of a comparison so I can show you the differences here, in the mixers themselves. But anyway, out there, we turned around with a laptop. I took a look on Amazon real quick, and this is what I found. Okay, now to me, this is the exact same bit at $9.95, so why pay more? You might as well get the one at Harbor Freight and with the discount applied. But this to me looks to be the identical bit. They were probably made in the same factory. It was probably rebranded. But if you take a look at this, it's still got the plastic head cap on here. And what is kind of cool about this is got that hole in there. You can hang it up, I suppose, in a closet or something if you wanted to. That's what it's for. And you take a look, and it's zinc plated steel, which prevents rust. And the other one, of course, has got that red color on it, which I'm going to explain to you in a minute, because there's a lot of criticism about that, but I'll explain it to you. But I wanted to show you this for price comparison's sake between the two. So let's go back to the Harbor Freight one, and we'll discuss that one, and we'll go over the pros and cons, and I'll tell you a way around a couple of things. Now, there's a couple major complaints over using this, and I think both of them to some degree are fixable. I understand it's the old comment, I shouldn't have to modify or fix anything. But still, for the price and for what you're going to use it for, it could turn out to be a good tool. So the first one was, hey, this red paint, when you're stirring paint, it comes off, like the little flakes of it. We saw that, we read about that, and when we were out in the little club, we took some stripper, we put it on here, and we took off that red paint. Now, that red paint that's on there, it's not enamel, and it's not powder coated is what the word I was looking for. It's not powder coated, it's not enamel. So it's just some inexpensive paint they put on it, I suppose. So strip it off. There's the problem is solved. Other thing is, the blades are weak, and depending on what you're trying to mix, they'll bend or they'll break on you. The first thing is, I know that it says that you can use this to mix concrete. I wouldn't do that. This blade isn't really, it's really not meant for that. You need a different kind of a mixer. But it's got rocks and stuff in it, so it's going to bend, twist, and mess this blade up on you. So that's the first piece of advice. If you're looking for something to mix concrete, you might be able in a 5-gallon bucket to mix small amounts at a time and get away with it. You probably could, but this isn't my choice if I'm mixing concrete. And somebody said, well, what about taping mud? We did use it while we were out there. We tried it. And the one thing that I can tell you, well, the first thing I'll tell you is a lot of people say, well, you can use a cordless drill with this. You can use small 3/8 drill. If you're going to mix paint or something thin, you can do that, and I'm sure it'll work perfectly fine. But if you're going to mix anything like, taping mud, thin set, or anything like that with this, I wouldn't try to mix like the whole bag at a time, first of all. I would just mix it in steps. But the second thing is, I myself, and I'll show you when we go out to the garage, I use a 1/2-inch corded drill. It has a lot of power and a lot of torque behind it. And I found that when we hooked it up to the 1/2-inch drill, this thing worked very adequately. But like I said, We're not going to use it on concrete or anything like that, but I could see how it would work perfectly fine on paint and thinner materials. And like I said, if you did it and you worked your way up to it in steps, it would work fine, with taping mud. And somebody goes, well, they read in the comments that it's a good value and a good buy. Just realize you're only going to be able to use it a handful of times at best. Now, I don't think that that's true. Now, what a friend of mine did when we cleaned up all the paint off of his, we read that the welds are really weak on this. And like I said, you shouldn't have to do this, but I welded the piss out of this thing for him, with my MIG gun. And it's not going to come off. I just re-strengthened all the welds. Now, if something was to bend or twist on this, I could probably use lineman's pliers and bend them back. But I don't think if you're using, I don't think you're going to have that problem if you stick to some of the thinner stuff. Taping mud would probably or thin set would be about the thickest I would go to. And I would, like I keep telling you, I would mix it in steps, a little bit at a time, and keep adding water and a little bit more until you get it to the consistency that you want. And I think that you would be fine. We just demoed this a handful of times. And I think if you take care of it and you do these few little quirky shop hacks, you're going to be fine with it. Should you have to immediately weld these seams again or, strengthen the welds? No, you shouldn't have to, but we did it and it's going to last. I know it'll last a hell of a lot longer now. All right, so let's go out to the shop. I'm going to show you what I have. It's a different tool, and I do use it for mixing concrete, taping mud, and a lot of other things. Now, mine's different than this one, but I also paid a lot more for it. Okay, so it depends on what your application is. Like I said, just understanding limitations on things, and don't set the bar so high on some of these tools and you won't be disappointed. So, all right, let's head out there. All right, everybody, so we moved out into the garage for a few minutes so that I could show you what I use when I want to mix the concrete. And I have this kind of mixing bit. Okay, if you take a look up here, you can see where I've mixed paint in much bigger containers than 5 gallon, all the way down to this stuff all over it here is thin set. So I do clean these things up from time to time. Now, all I gotta do is bang on this hard with a hammer or something like that after it's set up, and it'll come off and it'll come back down to bare metal. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, give me just a sec. I got a pair of lineman's pliers, and when these things become too bent down here, I can just take the lineman's pliers and I can bend these just back up, just like this. And it's fairly easy to do. And this one is a good strong one. I've had it for years. Okay. So this will mix concrete, but I put this on a 1/2-inch corded drill like we were talking about. So you can get these on Amazon. I don't remember where I got this one. The big box stores might even sell them, but these come in good for mixing something, really hard like that concrete with all the rock in it. Okay, let's go back inside. Okay, so you saw that video of me out in the shop talking to you about the one that I use in the 1/2-inch drill. Tons more power, okay? And so that to me is key in a lot of the mixing of some of these thicker materials. And like I said, you can make the tweaks that I'm mentioning to this. It will work perfectly fine. But, understand, you can also buy, a better tool if that's what you're going to do is mix concrete. But you're going to pay a lot more for that. So if you're not going to be mixing concrete and you're going to be mixing thinner materials, this is more than adequate if you just take a few steps in taking care of it. Like I was telling you, get the red paint off of it, re-strengthen the welds if you have a welder. I don't know, you might even try, JB Weld, on the seams. That might, or, on the welds, that could help you too. I actually used a welder. I have oxyacetylene MIG both. So, touching this thing up wasn't a big deal for me. And I mix in 5-gallon buckets, or sometimes in the 2.5 gallon, I think, buckets that you can get out at Harbor Freight. That's where I mix most of the materials and stuff. This bit would work adequately fine. So if you don't want one like I have, there's nothing wrong with getting this one. So if I subtract out the criticisms on the paint and the twisting of the blades, Most of the twisting of the blades came from, they were trying to mix concrete, or they were trying to put it into a consistency that was like too thick for it to start off with. If I get rid of those comments, I get rid of the ones about the red paint flaking off because you stripped it down and off. There really wasn't that much more other than they just felt all the way around. It's just a cheap tool. It is. Use it correctly. It'll last you a long time. I mean, that's what I think. And the comment, it's only going to last a handful of times. Well, I understand. That's your opinion. I mean, but I think it'll last a hell of a long time. Anyway, that's just a quick overview on this stuff. I mean, I hope you got something out of the video. If you have a different experience, put it in the comment below. If you have a better tool that somebody can buy that's a mixer, drop it below. I showed you the ones on Amazon. I showed you the one that I use out in the shop. I don't own all of them, like I said. I can just tell you those are the differences. And if you take care of it, I think it would last you a very long time. I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. Keep following me. Hit that notification bell, folks. I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.